we're really, really grateful for all the amazing sponsors. First of all, a huge shout out to Pretzel Lab. Thank you, okay, and the whole Pretzel Lab team. The guys were here at 5 o'clock putting out all these chairs. So if you can stay back, anyone, and help us put them all back again, that'd be great. But we want to, are we doing the official thing across the road? Is that the idea?
The Albion?
Yeah, okay, so we've got to be out of the building by 9, otherwise you'll get locked in the list. But there's a sort of carry on, do across the road at your own expense, I'm afraid. But the it's the Albion Place Hotel, which is literally you walk over the train tracks, and it's the first pub you come to next to the cinema. So not far away, look it up. Also, for all the lovely food you've been eating, we really want to say thank you to Lanson. Are they here tonight?
Yeah.
Hey! Thank you, Lanson, for this. And also, we paid for the beer, didn't we? We didn't pay for it.
People bought tickets.
I think people that bought tickets paid for the drink. So just keep drinking it, right? You know, so that's it. And then obviously the real reason that we're here is because of the amazing UX Australia conference. Can I get a show of hands of anyone that's going? Oh, there's a few, yeah, okay. Oh, there'll be more. Because it's sold out. But I'm going to let Steve talk about that in a minute. And I want to say thank you to my compatriots, which is EUX. Is anyone here from the UX tonight? Ah, there he is. Hey, how are you, my friend? Good, yeah, good to see you. But Adam's birthday today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, happy birthday, Adam. We don't have time to say hello, but oh, sorry. Hey, there he is. We should get Rich up here to tell him he does. And then there's us, of course, there's myself, Sylvia, who's there at the back, and Lydia, who can't be here, but she's definitely online, I'm told. And then Sydney's Line Thinking Crew, Ben, stand up, take a bow. Zoe's here. No?
Kylie,
Kate. Oh, sorry. Hey, Kate's here. Hey, Kate. And then amazingly, the IXDA Rocksteady crew, are they here? Susan's here.
represent.
Most of us, yeah. Okay, all right. Let's here. Vera can't be here, unfortunately, but she wishes us all the best. So look, that's pretty much that boring bit. Can I just begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional owners on the land on which we broadcast today. We'd also like to pay our respects to elders past and present and emerging, and to all people of colours. Now, I am going to pass the mic, if he doesn't mind coming up here, to the amazing Mr. Steve Baty. Steve.
Hey everyone, I host UX Australia. That's sort of, for those who don't know, I'm really happy to see like the hands went up. That's awesome. The in-person conference is sold out, which is great, and a bummer for those people who would like to be like this in the audience at the event. We do have still have tickets available if you want to dial in and watch it remotely by video from the comfort of, you know, like your pajamas at home, or in your pajamas at work. One of the reasons that we began the conference, I was saying just a few minutes ago, one of the reasons we began the conference in 2009 was that Australia really didn't have a strong community of UX designers. We could get maybe 5 or 6 people to a pub once a month if we were lucky. And at the same time, we had these events going on in New York and San Francisco, you know, like every few weeks where 250 people would show up like this. So one of the real goals we had with running UX Australia was to help sort of coalesce a community in Australia. And looking around the room tonight, I really have to say it makes me very, very proud that we have this kind of strength in the design community, in the UX community, across all of these different groups, where we can get a group like this together and come together and enjoy our company, enjoy each other, learn some things, and be better as a result. So I'm super chuffed about events like this. I'm happy that as a result of UX Australia, this kind of thing takes place. That's about it for me. I'm going to shut up and get off because it's not about me tonight, but I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. So thank you all. I look forward to seeing those of you who will be at the conference in a couple of weeks' time, and it literally is just in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you all so much for coming. Cheers.
Thanks, Steve. Right, man, this would be really remiss of me not to do this because I have been very lucky enough to be one of the leadership team for this amazing IXA Interaction 24 conference that is coming up. There's a lot of the leadership team in the audience, by the way. But I'm just going to hand over to this wonderful lady to talk about it.
Hey, Tim, come over this way,
Why is that?
because then I can see you.
Oh.
One on I can see you. more
Okay.
specifically.
Yeah, so I've spoken to at several events. I have announced that we are doing this. But this sounds really weird. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, we, about a year ago this time, we got together and the invite went out to say, we're opening this international conference to places other than North America or Europe. And we were, I think, eating ramen, as we like to do. And we slurped a little bit and decided that maybe we should put our hat in the ring and be careful of what you ask for, because we actually won it. And we are so excited that we are able to bring this conference to Sydney, because it does represent the first time that Asia Pacific can be represented in a meaningful way. And our whole purpose of this conference is to really make sure we're amplifying the voices of people who have typically not been part of the IXVA community. And so we want to do a couple of plugs. First of all, the theme of the conference, if you haven't been aware, the theme of the conference is revisit, reframe, regenerate. So there's something for everybody in that. And there's tickets. There are two things that we want to mention. There are still early bird tickets available to the end of this month. So if you're interested in early bird tickets, now's the chance. If you work for a group that is buying a number of tickets, over 5 tickets, you get a 20% discount for buying in bulk. So there's lots of incentives to do that. And we are so excited and really want to see you here. Well, not here, because we're not doing it at Pretzel Lab. We're doing it at the ICC, as well as we're doing the first 2 days of the event at Ariel at UTS. So we have an education summit that Ben is the co-chair of running. So we have an education summit on Monday, we have workshops on Tuesday, and then we have the conference Wednesday through Friday. And it should be great.
It will be great.
It will be great.
It is already great.
But there is another opportunity, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need some.
We want you to help make it great, and that's
Yeah.
why I said it should be great, because we have our call for proposals out. And so we are looking for speakers for the conference who want to speak on the theme of revisit, reframe, or regenerate. We're looking for speakers, we're looking for workshops. We want to amplify our voices. So the call for proposals is open until the end of the month. So what's today's date? It's only the 10th, right? Heaps of time. If you want some help preparing your proposal, getting some ideas about your, I mean, we're not going to write it for you, but we're certainly open to giving feedback. So please come join us. And that will be my plug.
Right. Thanks everyone. And also, I think, not sure Susan touched on it as well, but we're looking for volunteers as well. So it's a really good way of getting, a good ticket. So go to the website and instead of clicking call for proposals, go to volunteer. So without any further ado, because we've got a packed evening tonight, I'm just going to say that we have 4 speakers that will be speaking and presenting at UX Australia this year. And we're going to let them come up one at a time. We're basically going to start with Sarah. The way that we've run it is that I'll do Sarah Stokes. Sorry, Sarah. 2 Sarahs. I'll introduce Sarah, and then Sarah's going to introduce Nova, and then Nova's going to introduce Sarah, and then Sarah's going to introduce Julia. So, yeah. So, this will all work, hopefully. Yeah. So, without any further ado, I'm just going to talk very quickly about the wonderful Sarah Stokes. She's a design leader at Atlassian, this is where she's been applying her 20 years experience in digital human-centered design, team and capability building, facilitation, strategic and design thinking to create engaging and impactful products and services for their customers. Sarah, do you want to come up now and we can do away with the LinkedIn profile? And you can even use this microphone or that one.
Thank you very much. I actually tried out the AI feature on LinkedIn on the weekend, so that is AI generated. I haven't been at Atlassian for 20 years.
Did I say 20 years? I said 20 years of experience.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Okay. Cool. Can I get started or?
Yeah, I think you're ready to rock, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Am I holding?
You can this one, or this one is working as well.
No. Hi. Okay. Right, Elton John. Okay, so I'm going to give you a taster of my, I was about to say 10-minute workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop and I'm kind of giving you a taster in 10 minutes. So my workshop is entitled Wisdom in Design in brackets Leadership. It's closer than you think. So, and I'm going to explain why I'm talking to you about that. The workshop aims to be thought-provoking, reflective and practical. And let's see if you get that out of 10 minutes. Before we start, I'd like you to rate yourselves on a scale of 1 to 10. So how confident are you in your ability to be wise in your design practice? So just think of a number between 1 and 10 now. It doesn't have to be real, only for you. And then you might have to remind me to calibrate you at the end. But yeah, that's just to see if there's been any change in your confidence. So today I am going to talk about why am I here talking about wisdom? What is wisdom anyway? And can we enact wisdom for the betterment of? So wisdom, once you understand what wisdom is really useful for all aspects of living, but for the purposes of the workshop and today, we're going to talk about design leadership. So first of all, why? About this time last year, I was going on a walk and considering the fact that my friend, Dr. Paul Lawrence and his friend Susie had a book coming out this year on the wise leader. And so they were publishing a few articles on LinkedIn and surveying us about what that meant to be a wise leader. And I was thinking, what does wise leadership mean to me in design? I can't see myself, like what does wise mean? And I was about to start a job at Atlassian. I'm like, what does wisdom mean in leadership there? And also, how important is wisdom in life anyway? When I shared this talk with people at my previous job, they said, why are you doing a talk on wisdom? I'm like, well, look at the leaders today. Perhaps we need to role model what wisdom is because there's a dearth of wise leaders in the public eye. Not mentioning any names. So what I did, my classic problem I have is when I have a concept that I can't understand, I have a designerly tendency to want to make it concrete. So I thought what I need to do is lodge a proposal for design leadership in November so that I'm forced to research the concept of wisdom in design leadership. So that's what I did. So I first did this talk last November. So without further ado, let's have a thought experiment. Who or what do you picture when you think of wisdom? So just have a little think, just visualize if that is your flavour or a name. Who is it? Is it one of these fellas?
Yes, yes.
So when I thought of wisdom, I thought of Yoda, and often people think of Socrates or Gandalf. Two of them are fictional. They're all non-existent now. They all have beards, or at least a lot of facial hair, and they're all of the male gender. I'm not sure about Yoda, but I'm assuming that's him. So it's no wonder that I couldn't see myself as a wise leader. So really, that made me really want to understand what wisdom really means and make it available to all of us in this room. So let's bust some myths. So age, I mean, Yoda's incredibly old. I think it's hundreds of years old. So if we think about age, I started this research last year, and Adam Grant also tweeted it, not saying anything, but I did it first. So the research says that there is zero correlation between age and wisdom. So that's great. You don't have to be old to be wise. In fact, what's more important is reflecting on your experience of wisdom. So what it doesn't say in that tweet is wisdom starts to grow from the age of 13 to 25, and then it holds steady until 75, and then there's a cognitive decline. So just looking around the room, more or less, I think we're all in that age range. So we're good on age. So when it comes to knowledge, I'm sure we all know people who are very clever, but not smart. So the astrophysicist, you can't make scrambled egg, for example. So knowledge doesn't necessarily mean wisdom. And then experience. So you've got the curse of the expert. So people who are expert have tunnel vision. They don't necessarily see the bigger picture. And indeed, when you're working with grads, they can give you a wise, fresh perspective because they haven't been in this situation before. So I reckon we busted those myths. Now, for the purposes of, it's traditional to do a dictionary definition. So here we are, the dictionary definition of wisdom according to the Cambridge Dictionary. The ability to use your knowledge and experience to make good decisions and judgments. Well, we've already blown that out of the water, and it sounds a bit boring, and it's not much I can get engaged with. So, I guess what I should say is part of my work to understand wisdom is that I did a lot of research, a lot of academic research into wisdom, and what I did was I kind of kept it to the last 10 years, wisdom, leadership, wisdom in the leadership context, not spiritual context, because that's a whole other ballgame. Also interesting, but not for here. And then also design and wisdom. So this particular article from McKenna and Rooney, who are Queensland University, they say wise leaders have foresight, use reason, experience and careful observation. They allow for non-rational and subjective elements when making decisions and have an orientation beyond self-interest towards the common good. So as designers, we need foresight because we're creating things that don't yet exist. So I think we can attach ourselves to this definition a bit more. We've started to get more, we can start to see a connection with wisdom. Now, as is traditional, I had a Miro board with lots of post-it notes of all the different research I did. And what I thought was there's two aspects to wisdom. There's wisdom about who we are, our characteristics of our personality, and then what we do. So when we do the workshop, as I say, running the workshop, so we'll be focusing on building that who we are-ness and then understanding what actions we can take. So self-awareness is really important. So thinking about your strengths and values is important, but self-awareness actually in the moment is really important for wisdom. So when you're in a meeting and you have an emotional reaction to someone, you think, where's that coming from? Having that time to actually think about that self-awareness, that's wisdom inactive. EQ, emotional intelligence, that's about emotional regulation and relationship building and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot to who we are. I'll just put a few points up there. And then in terms of what we do, in design, if we're not taking action, nothing exists. And so action is the key probably to design wisdom and in leadership. So things like perspective taking and phronesis is the Greek word for wisdom in action. So I learned that word during my research. So when we have wise design leaders, that's wisdom and design. Boom. So what happened to me, this is my aha moment, was when I was looking at the design process and I sort of deconstructed wisdom, I put them both together and realised, arguably, many design activities are wisdom enacted. So it's amazing to think that what we do every day could be seen as wise. But the point is, if we don't frame it up as wisdom, it's not what we do, it's how we do it. So things like systems thinking, systemic thinking, evidence-based decision making, bringing people together to think together, seeing the bigger picture, using frameworks, conceptualizing, thinking about the future, it's all wisdom. So I find that quite exciting that if we use wisdom as a thought experiment, then, you know, who knows what could happen. Now, I'm going to leave you with a long quote. So this is just to say really that wisdom doesn't have to be on top of mind all the time. So in real life, wisdom manifests itself in situations that are important, difficult, uncertain, and emotionally challenging. Neither cognitive nor personality components of wisdom alone are sufficient to understand real life wisdom. So what that really tells us is we don't have to be wise all the time, just when it matters. And so the reason I want to be a wise leader is to be able to be wise when it matters. And that's what I want to be able to share with people if they join me on my workshop, sales pitch. So, how might we take a deliberate approach to build our own personalised wisdom muscles? And so what I'm aiming to do is have people build their own self-awareness and where they need to focus and then walk away with actions that are particular to their context. Now, I don't know whether that was 10 minutes or not, but what I would like to ask you is, on your scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel that you may be able to be wise in your design practice based on that conversation? Is it more?
Yes.
Thank you. I did problems there, so I hope it was yes. Anyway, I'm going to now pass over to Nova, who's going to introduce her talk. Thank you.
Step 1, 2. The next hurdle, finding my presentation.
Next one along.
Yeah, sounds so easy. It is
Hurrah.
so easy. How about that? Oh, wow. Hello.
Hey, no, are you able to come that way? Yeah,
No, because then I'll have to
yeah,
hold.
that, with the mic on that side.
Oh, I'm like speaking like to nowhere. I'm going to ad lib. Hello.
It's gone full road.
I'm going to talk a bit about how you get people to agree when there are lots of people who have very different agendas. Hold on, there should be a slide that says something like that one. Hello, my name is Nova. Just wave if you know me. Few people. I work at an organisation called Meld Studios. There's about 25 of us, and we exist to create a more equitable, sustainable, and just world. So we mostly work on social and environmental problems, big, juicy ones that people have typically tried to solve before and have failed. And we use strategic design as our way forward to bring people along. I'm a psychologist. I've been at Meld for about 9 years. I've been working a lot on sustainability issues and how do we address issues like climate change. And I'm going to use a case study from a project I've been working on since about November 2020. And that project is about how do you get big buildings as they're being built to emit less carbon. And that's about the most I'm going to say about the detail of that, because you don't really need to know. But I'm essentially giving you some tips on what we did on this project to get people to agree, because we had, you can see here, so many different types of people who didn't want to come together and agree on a way that we could measure the emissions from their buildings. They all had their own views, they all had their own agendas, they had a lot of money to lose if we measured this thing in a way that didn't work for them. And so my first tip is to give everybody affected a voice. And you can see here that we've involved decision makers in terms of the people who are building the buildings, developers, owners, tenants, project teams, and there's a whole lot of people there. We talk to people from policy, we talk to industry peaks, we talk to academics, and we talk to people who make the materials that go into those big buildings. So giving everybody a voice means that you can understand what people need, you can design for that, and you can also understand where they're going to block. And so then you can then work with them to make sure the solution you create is not one they want to block, but instead of saying, you can't make that, they're saying, when can I have that? And that's where we're at with this project, which is pretty cool. My second tip is to make ideas really easy to digest. I think this picture is a really great example of that. Like, you take everything away that is not needed. I did a yoga teacher training. I'm not a yoga teacher trainer. Turns out that's kind of a hard thing to do. But when you're telling someone to move on their mat, you take away every unnecessary word. So you go, lift your back right leg, move it to the front of your mat. See, I can't do it, and that's why I'm not a yoga teacher. But you take all the extra words. You don't even say in, like moving, like move. And that actually taught me how to write quite well and changed the way I wrote. But this stuff that we're dealing with on the project is around a thing called embodied carbon. What the hell even is that? Like, hardly anyone in the world knows. And so when you're having conversations with people, it's useless to use the terminology. I have a saying that basically you want to phrase stuff in a way that a 10-year-old kid can understand it. So no acronyms, no big words, take out as many words as you can so people can absorb it. Strip back language, strip back ideas. So anything that's going to confuse people that's not necessary, get rid of it. Also give people a context. So we were working on a project where we were coming up with some recommendations. Before we explained the recommendations in super simple terms, we gave them a bit of a context on why this thing is needed, why it's necessary. Then we gave them the idea, and then we did a thing called, we gave them a rationale. So here's the context on this idea. Here's what the idea is in really simple terms. And this is the reason we're going with this idea. This is what everybody has told us. So that everyone can then go, oh, I get what you're talking about, even though it's mind-blowing. I get why you're going down that road, and then I can support it. The next thing we did, and I reckon all of you would do this if you were working on a project that had the word design somewhere in or around it. We came up with a list of common needs and aspirations. So rather than going, what is it everybody doesn't want, and what are their separate agendas, which we kind of did that as well, we created this list of principles that everybody could rally around, nobody disagreed with, not one person. And so we had things like, well, if you're going to do this thing, it's got to be impactful, it's got to make a difference to the environment, and it's got to be meaningful. Everybody needs to be able to understand it, or else it can't be impactful. And how about we make it streamlined, because everybody's so busy now. So they're not going to have time to mess around. Like, let's make this thing really easy to use, really easy to adopt. There's some other principles there as well. The other thing we did is we said, okay, we know what our key needs are. Every time we make a big decision, let's compare, let's see how that lines up against the needs that we have. So this is an example. You've got the decision, how should we do whatever? You've got your needs, and then you go option one, and it's a traffic light system. So option one, comparing option one against your needs, you're like, the first one is not great, it's not bad, it's a bit of a meh. The next one's, yeah, that's good, this idea is really consistent, gives us consistency. This one's meh, but good this is good here, it's streamlined, it's trusted, it's meaningful. And so then when you're looking and you have a little description in each of these boxes, so you understand what impactful means in the context of this decision. And then people can look at this and go, oh, I see why you're choosing option 1. It's got a lot more green and a lot less yellow and hardly, or in this case, no red. So that's what we did there. And then you'll probably do this as well. So ask people what they think, adjust it, ask them again, adjust it, ask them again, is this closer to what you need? In this project, I think I've paraphrased this, I don't think it's a real quote, but it's very, very close to what the person said. Sarah's laughing at me. It's really close to what the person said, which was kind of like at the end of the project, someone who we thought would block the project in a very serious way actually said, oh, thank you. I feel like the beginning this really wasn't there and wasn't going to work for us, but you've listened and I can actually see that you've adjusted it based on what I've said. Now I think I can live with it, which is a big relief. Make a start and build from there. On this project, we had 9 key proposals and they together made up what the minimum viable product was. It doesn't do everything for everyone. It doesn't meet everybody's needs. How could it? It's minimum viable, but it gets us down the pathway towards taking action. It's a climate emergency. How about we make a start? So we did that 1 to 9, very simple, very pared back, very tangible proposals. And then we created a thing called a roadmap, which basically said some of these things could be bigger. Some of these things could be more impactful. We can't do them yet because we might have to work out, just get something happening here and work out some details. But in 18 to 24 months following the launch, we're going to review those things. And what that did is that gave us a ticket for everybody who went, I'm not getting what I need here. If we only released this, we're going to be cross. To go, oh, you're going to review the thing and I'm going to have a chance to have a say then. So go forth. That's it. I forgot to put the timer on, so I don't know. Is there something for a text here? Probably not.
Kevin doesn't take the mic off here, so I reckon there is.
Anyone got a question, comment? Hello, man at the back.
Hi there, name's Matthew, just wondering, name's Matthew, just wondering, when you said you're reviewing proposals, how do you guys go about doing that? Because you're mentioning like the 1 to 9.
What do we do in the roadmap when we review them?
More like, is there more of like a framework that you guys established to review your proposals to continue iterating them forward?
100% understand. So we came up with 9 proposals. We had about 200 people help us shape those. They changed over time. The 200 people talked to us more than once, many of them. Then, because this client that I work with is New South Wales government, you wouldn't think they would do this, but it's neighbours who are amazing. Then they're like, oh, we talked to 200 people, but let's put it out for public consultation. So like anyone could have a say. That's very cool. And then we've got the review at the 18 to 24 months to go, is it working? Do we need to change it? How do we expand it? Because
So are you saying it's more like a public approach to getting a proposal done and then pushing that forward to get the project completed?
yes, that's what I use up all of the time, but yeah, contact me afterwards if you can to know more. I'm going to introduce you to Sarah from Prospa. They do small business finance, and she's going to talk about digital transformation.
They're going to figure out how to use a computer. Very nice.
Hi, Sarah.
We haven't seen you on minutes.
I don't have any minutes.
That's fine, just this.
Oh, we did.
Hey, Sarah, can I get you to slide the
yeah.
back turn to the right?
Alright. Am I right or you're right?
You're right, I think. Yep. Oh, my God. What have we done?
Sorry, I'm struggling. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm Sarah. Yay, we got there. I'm gonna start now.
We need a ticket.
Yes, please. It still works. It does. So I'm Sarah. Hi. I grew up, I had a pretty wonderful childhood on a rural property just outside Ballarat. And we lived on a mountaintop. Well, actually, my mum still lives there. I'm in Sydney. The house that we lived in was on a mountaintop with sheep in the fields. And as well as that, we also had, in the middle of the family room, we actually had this wonderful big dome in the plaster. The light in the family room buried in the middle. And as a kid, we always thought, like me and my sisters, my brother, we always thought that was a bit strange, but that was just the family room. Over the years, the dome in the middle started to get bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually the plaster started to break away from the walls. And then a couple of years ago, Mum decided to, am I double? Sound good? Okay, I'm good. Okay, just checking. Until eventually, a couple of years ago, Mum decided to, she was like, okay, it's fine. It's time to get a builder in. And Jason the builder walked in and he was like, oh my God. He was shocked. He actually also refused to walk into the family room because he was like, that's about to collapse. We still lived in there. And it made me think about all of the times my brother Matthew had slammed the front door and Mum had been like, don't do that. The roof could easily collapse. Literally, it could have. We lived in it for 20 years. It's fun. And all of the times my dad had got on or in the roof in that section of the house, and we'd just been laughing away watching TV, not knowing that at any moment in time, that section of the roof could have easily collapsed. Fortunately, Jason did walk into the family room. It was very kind of him. He put up a metal pole to help support that section of the roof. And he did say that he technically should shut off that part, but we were like, please don't, we need that. And turns out that none of the frameworks were, like the structures were, of the roof was made correctly, which is why it was slowly trying to collapse in on us. Turns out he's supposed to have that built correctly. So, which is why, what I'm going to talk about for the quick 10 minutes, I'm probably going to go over time, sorry, I can't help myself. I also technically some of the time was held up by me destroying stuff. So, our roof is like a lot of digital transformation projects. The framework is technically there, but it's moments away from collapsing because the foundations weren't laid properly. And so today, I'm going to take you through that because if you build a strong framework and you have a strong foundation, then you're able to have something in place that's able to support you long term. But what is digital transformation? Well, you can read the thing, but I'm also going to read it for you. It's about using digital technologies to create new or modify existing business processes, systems, people, culture, technology, and customer experiences to meet changing business needs over time. Which, like, what do the fancy words mean? Who knows? Well, that's why I put this here. How can we make a meaningful change which will be good for customers and good for business?
So the thing is, it sounds pretty easy, but really about 95% of digital transformation projects fail to deliver their intended value, which is quite a lot considering most organizations go through them. Like, that's a lot. I've been part of a lot of the ones that have failed. I've also been part of some of the ones that have been that have been successful. And I'm sure you've been part of some of those as well. And so today, one of the key things that all of these transformation projects have in common is poor foundations, the dodgy roof. And then one thing that they all have in common is that strong framework that helps them to have a successful blueprint and helps them have that framework in place to help them really succeed. So I'm going to take you through that framework today. I'm going to do a real quick version. If you come to US Australia, I've heard it's doing great. If you want to see all of it. I heard there's still remote tickets available. If you want to buy them, there is, yeah, there still is. So you should buy them. So the framework that I'm going to take you through today, real quick, because I've probably used up most of my time. I'm sorry. I'm still here. So it's D, D, and D. So super simple, and you're probably familiar with it because the first D that we have is define. And so it's really about defining your project objectives. So getting really clear in terms of what are we doing today, what does it look like, and making sure everyone's aligned together. And asking potentially Alexa to define or asking ChatGPT to do it for you. Then the next step is about defining your current experience. So what does it look like today? Where are the fires? How does it all connect together? What are we doing? And what do we need to improve? Where are we having agents crying on the phone or just not enjoying their jobs? Then define your future experience and getting really clear in terms of what does that experience need to look like? What do we really want to deliver together as a team? And making sure that everyone's aligned on that. And so how I've done this is really bringing everyone together to get a really clear understanding as to what does everything look like and what do we really want to work towards as an organization. Then number two, so you've defined all of that, and then it's time to decide. So digital transformation doesn't work if you don't have a selection criteria. So you really want to select. So you have all of that defined around your future vision. So therefore, this is kind of translated then into your selection criteria. So what are we all trying to, what do we need to use to then select that technology that we want to go forward with? And so linking it all together so that you're all on the same page and you have a framework that you can then use to connect and decide on your technology, which is the next point I'm going to talk about. And so you're using this selection criteria to set all of these different systems to really start to understand, does this meet what we're looking for as an organization? Will this allow us to bring to life that vision that we're trying to do together? And then you're also doing showcases with these different organizations to get them to basically show you, like, is this going to work for us? Is it what we're wanting? Then deciding a minimum viable experience, because if you go to market with something that you're like, this is really good over the top, you might need to scale it back. Then finally, deliver. Surprise, surprise, I'm not sure if you think it's going to come. So you want to decide on your technologies. So this is really about you making the choices to deliver the right experience. So you deliver that minimum viable experience, and then you really want to commit throughout each sprint to make sure that we're all on the same page, we're delivering that technology and then reviewing it across each moment in time to make sure that you've aligned on it together. And that you've delivered that experience, reviewing it and making sure that it's good to go. Then the other part of it is you want to deliver your change management. So change management isn't just comms, surprisingly, I don't know. It's super weird concept. It is also, as well as that, it's about how you bring people along that journey and making sure they're part of the project and they're not just surprised at the end of this thing. And so you want to bring them along, get them engaged so that they're brought up through this process. I always like to think of it as a story that you're taking them through and it's a journey that you're creating together. Then you want to deliver your North Star. So you've done your minimum lovable experience, then you have to keep delivering. It's not the end, sadly, for the end. And so it's about working through with everyone to see what's working, what's not, what do we have to change. And so how I've done this before is we run surveys to really understand what do we need to do, what do we want to evolve now that we've gone further. And it's also about marrying that value with effort, so that you're not doing something that doesn't have a valid business case as well. So 3 points: define, decide, deliver. Probably not surprising, it's foundations of a really simple, effective design process. And so making sure that you're doing each of these concepts. So before I finish up, because I'm already through every time, I wanted to look back to my story. So you might be wondering, did the roof collapse? Surprisingly, it did not. Jason did take on the job, but it took us a lot of builders to actually get someone to say yes to it, because adjusting a roof on a fully formed home is very hard and no one wants to do it. But it's basically, once we had that roof redone, it's similar to a digital transformation project. You have the right foundations in place to help set you up for the future, to ensure that you're able to deliver on your vision, on your strategy going forward. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it to Julia so that she can also potentially not break everything.
No, I think I will, yeah, I'll try and stay to my right.
Final version one. Yes.
Refunds. Hold on. The other way, guys. The other way, I have to go this way. I need it.
Sure.
No, it's not there. Oh, so hard. That is so hard. Oh. Bear with me, guys. We're gonna drink maybe. It's not moving. What am I doing wrong? Okay.
Just a quick shout out that there's a lot of drink still out there.
Okay.
Letting you know.
Okay, got it.
Everyone's been drinking.
Thank you.
You never know. Across the million. They don't need to.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, and you just run enough tabs, okay. Let's go to the,
There you go. Too late on the last one to go. Okay, what time is it? Normally I'm in bed by this time with a toddler, so this is
pretty much.
a change. Can you hear me? Yes. I figured this should be okay. Yeah, cool.
You don't want to hand.
You can roll the.
Is it not good enough? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mega one.
It's the Megameetup, thank you. I took the ferry in today from Manly and I saw a campaign from ACE, the government body, about child sexual exploitation. And 2-3 years ago, I would not have paid much attention or thought about it much, but really caught my eye and seemed appropriate for today. Sorry to, well, not sorry. I think this is a necessary conversation, so I'm not sorry, but yeah, just want to make sure that everyone was prepared. So thank you for having me here today. My name is Julia Suh. I'm a strategic designer at Tobias. If you chose to be here today based on the heading of my presentation, thank you for joining me. Because I think that says a lot about how you care about children's safety or making a positive change as designers. So thank you for joining the ecosystem of people trying to make change with design. We certainly need more of us in the community, don't we, to solve these wicked problems like climate change, for example. So it's a privilege for me to be here on this platform and to be heard. And I'm going to share with you today how we as designers can play a significant role in creating a movement for positive change, and talk about a particular project that I worked on with the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children as a case study to explain. But now I probably have 8 minutes because of the intro. So what I'm going to talk about at the UX Australia conference
is obviously much longer, and I talked about the outputs, activities, and a bit of more of the outcomes and what that meant for me. But today I'm just going to give you a focus on the context that I think is quite necessary in order to get to that next level. For the next 8 minutes, I'm going to talk about a project associated with child sexual exploitation. It's a horrendous crime, and it may trigger thoughts and feelings that need attention. Even if you feel that you came prepared for the talk, you may feel differently, or those of you on the call as well. So feel free to step out or leave the room as well at any time. This is me in the middle. I spent many years trying to bring people together into the same room to talk about and also take action around things that don't immediately or directly benefit them. Societal issues, city issues, neighborhood issues. And that got me thinking a lot about, in the literal and metaphorical sense, how do we mobilize individuals to actually roll up their sleeves and paint a wall for a purpose that's bigger than themselves, and how do we, as designers, set up a project or a program so that the people that we need to make it into a success can step into it. How do we enable them to see how they fit into their broader ecosystem, whether it be an industry or neighborhood or society or city or the planet? Child sexual exploitation is a network problem, and it takes a network to solve a network problem. What I'm about to share is how my team at Tobias was able to support the International Centre for Missing and Exploited Children Australia, IFMEC Australia is the acronym. We to do this by bringing people together, the online child sexual exploitation response ecosystem, it's quite a mouthful, people with different tools, capabilities and willingness to work together. So we did this through design, right? So artifacts, insights, storytelling, co-discovery, co-design, project created an awareness of the interdependencies and interconnections in the complex environments and how the systemic barriers are really related to their individual pain points, leading to the pathways to respond to those barriers together. Because the problem of CSE is complex and huge. Child sexual exploitation perpetrators behave like structured organizations collaborating through criminal networks, constantly changing tactics to avoid detection, leveraging newest technology and outnumbering law enforcement. In 2021 to 22 financial year, the Australian Centre to Counter Child Sexual Exploitation received over 36,000 reports of child sexual exploitation. In that same period, the Australian Federal Police charged 220 people. So can you imagine 1, 2, 3, 221 people with 1,746 alleged child abuse related offences. So let me first explain what child sexual exploitation, what I mean by that, because there are different manifestations of it, but here are a few. So coercive, self-generated content that's produced by minors themselves, live streaming of sexual abuse of a minor, which is broadcast live through a digital platform. There's file sharing of imagery or video files which contain child sexual abuse material, or acronym CSAM. They are either traded online as a currency or shared for monetary gain, so via an online transaction. Sexual exploitation of children in travel and tourism, possession and purchase of child sexual abuse material that reinforces the sexualization of children, including imagery, video, and childlike sex dolls. For our project, we focus on child sexual exploitation with digital footprints that we can trace, the sexual exploitation of children facilitated online. The OSEC crime rate is growing exponentially, and systemic barriers that prevent the industry from sharing data to identify perpetrators from their digital footprints, which can be created by making payments, communicating online, sharing child sexual abuse material. When ICMEC Australia engaged Tobias back in 2022, no single entity had a system-wide view of the responses to the crime. So they engaged Tobias to understand, first of all, the current state, identify the right problems to address and then to solve for these, establish a framework to maximize its organizational impact and funding of initiatives, and lastly, to limit any long-term risks through constant testing of assumptions and course corrections. Because we don't have much time, I'm going to skip over how we did it. That will be at the conference. But as one of the outcomes, we contributed to ICMEC Australia's 3 streams of work that provide the tools, access to a community of practice, and funding. The data product stream is built on the idea of developing and supporting the implementation of data collaboration projects that are able to reference various data points or data sets from clear web, dark web, risks and crime typologies, whilst maintaining privacy of the stakeholders in order to create a stronger picture of that crime, so corroborating the evidence to lead to more effective detection. The collaboration stream is built on the idea of creating a community of practice for sustainable and collective action. The membership program was a direct result actually from the research that we conducted and co-design of the solutions. It's designed to support ICMEC Australia as a new entity as it transitions to operating as a social enterprise model by generating revenue from its products and services that are accessed by the organizational and individual members. They launched their membership portal just this year, actually, in March, following iterative testing with the users and now provides a collaborative online space for their members within the CSE child sexual exploitation community. The Child Protection Fund stream is built on the idea of funding innovative data and technology solutions that can enhance the detection, reporting, and prosecution of child sexual exploitation. So these initiatives that they fund must be social impact led and not yet commercially viable, with the aim of providing proof of concept outcomes, and it takes a catalytic venture philanthropy approach, which facilitates new connecting the industry, so cross-industry partnerships that help break down the silos which currently exist today in the industry. So these 3 streams of work, they work in constant collaboration, which is why they are really important to ensure successful project outcomes through constant feedback from the stakeholders, and they have support in-house from the technical knowledge in-house team, and the project management of the deliverables as well. So from the beginning to that date, we compiled all the problem space, the discovery, as well as the solution development and playbacks. I ended up delivering executive briefings to the several stakeholder groups to share what we learned. So the challenge with solving for societal problems is that there are so many problems, right? There are so many problems that are interlinked that it's really hard to find that one thread to start untangling. Where do you start? Which is the thread with the biggest leverage point? And I think design is a really good way to find that thread, but designers really need to work with our client teams as one team, and both parties need to be comfortable with being vulnerable. So ICMEC Australia is a small not-for-profit organization, newly established in Australia, and they were really open to finding out about what role they can play within the ecosystem. I'm really humble about it to be able to maximize their impact, right? Finding that right spot between what they're capable of and what the industry gaps are. So that means they can really, commit their resources effectively. Our Tobias team, of course, was equally comfortable with being vulnerable. We are used to it. We are expert generalists. And we gained the subject matter knowledge along the project journey. As I said, I didn't know about this 3 years ago. But we work with the confidence that trusting the research and evidence and testing leads to the right solutions. So we are really happy that Ignite Australia is hitting goals, really. They're working tirelessly day in and day out. And what they have achieved to date is truly exceptional. They've engaged 96 organizations from 12 industries, increasing the number of participants by 300% over a 6-month period. They kicked off 9 data and collaboration projects led by the industry. And today their team is a microcosm of what the ecosystem looks like so that they can actually deliver the work and understand their stakeholders better. So I'll finish there. I got heaps more that I want to share, but I'll do that at the conference. But I guess I just want to leave you with this slide. If you want to contribute to the ongoing fight against child sexual exploitation, you can take action now yourself. So you can learn more about it on the ACE government website. And if you've got kids, have those difficult conversations with your children. eSafety has really good resources in helping you do that. And if you feel like you've actually seen a crime, remember the numbers so that you can do something about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. I've actually worked with Julia in the past and I've seen the effort that she puts into her work and it's unbelievable. Thank you for being here, especially coming all the way from Manly. It's not easy. That's it pretty much for the official part of the evening. You know, we don't have to leave the building for at least another hour. We would like anyone that wants to hang back and drink all our beer to stay and do that. Anyone that has to take off and look after kids and stuff like that, we understand. We really want to say a huge thank you to all our sponsors. We mentioned it before. I want to say a huge thank you to Steve for being here tonight. Please support Susan and Interaction 24. Like, it's going to be a mega event, but it won't happen without you guys. If you can't come, spread the word. There's lots of people around us that we can all talk to and ask to put in proposals and be part of it. And, you know, this IXDA thing grabbed me at least 5-6 years ago. I've been along for the ride. I feel like a passenger, but I remember with people like Joe was here tonight. Thank you, Joe, for coming. Like, you know, I was welcome from day one. You guys, please get behind it. You know, please get behind UX Australia. Steve's been a part of IXDA as well in the past. President, were you? He was the president of IXDA, there you go. And if Vera was here tonight, she'd grab the mic from me. I wouldn't get a word in. And I'm sure she's like, is here in spirit anyway. But please, if you can, stay back and be a part of this. And we really look forward to seeing you at UX Australia. And we'll look forward to, Ben, do you think we'll do a mega meetup in December?
I reckon we'll do it.
We probably will. Oh, yeah. So that one will probably be less speakers and more beer. So.
Nice speaking to me.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Come on. We're taking in.
I do that all the time.
I love this. Cameras love us.
Are you going to be in 2K, Dub? Oi!
Can I also get one recording?
Okay, well done.